Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folare. Today, let's look at a sort of a rolling subject. I call it that because even as of yesterday, anybody that had seen journalists hangout would have seen that our Babajide Kolade Otitoju also looked at this subject. And we're talking about insecurity in the Northeast. I was even joking with our guest this morning that depending on how you look at it, is it security in the Northeast? I beg your pardon. Is it security in the Northeast, a focus on security in the Northeast, or a focus on insecurity in the Northeast? I was joking with him that it doesn't matter which way you take it, the subject matter is going to be pretty much the same. I'm talking here about Dr. John Ngamsa. Dr. John Ngamsa is the special advisor to the Adamawa State Governor on communications and strategy. Good morning to you, sir, and thank you for making yourself available this morning.
Good morning. Nice meeting you for the first time.
Indeed. My pleasure. My pleasure.
Thank you. Right.
Now, security in the Northeast has been a long, if it's a conversation, it's been a long drawn conversation. We've been at it for years now. When you look at the Northeast, the fact that borders in Nigeria generally are porous, but up there in the Northeast especially, the neighboring countries, they also harbor their own dangers. We're hearing that even within Nigeria, you chase bandits and all these criminals. You chase them from one area, Kaduna, for example, they move to another state. You chase them from Borno, they move in. So all of these things are long-standing problems. Now, what I would like to do is maybe start, because you are an expert, you are up there. Yours will be more of a first-hand account. How would you evaluate the state of, let me put it, security? How would you evaluate the state of security in the Northeast? Now, I'll ask this question this way, against the backdrop of reports that the bandits and all these kind of people seem to be able to run rings around that which we call our security apparatus.
Yes, I think I understood exactly the context from where you're coming from. If I get you right, we're trying to get a bridge difference between insecurity and security itself. But when you look at security, let's apply it more to what obtains when it affects the administration of security itself,
yes,
nationally.
Yes.
And insecurity, perhaps, to how people become victims and the kind of things that obtain in the process of their own existence, like the threats they pass through. Now, from the background, you accept with me that the Northeast Zone is one of the largest geographical space that Nigeria has, not fully developed, with gross difficulties in terms of terrain and trying to put operational issues right. The road networking, not good enough at least to meet up our demands in terms of the fact that the place is forested and the terrain is difficult. Added to the fact that we have the longest straight border, particularly in Adamawa State, of about 900 kilometers with the Cameroon Republic, and some tracts that are not defined on maps, for these kind of hopeless characters, and endless characters, to go about hiding themselves and doing exactly what they want. That in itself have brought about, let me say, about three major categories of difficulties in terms of things that have brought insecurity in our Northeast. One, the Boko Haram. The second one is the farmer herder. And if you look at them, all of them need some kind of hiding. They need some kind of haven. And then the third one is perhaps the urban terrorism and the instigation of the fallout of exactly what we have. When people suffer as IDPs and they have to move to cities, the migration itself brings constraints to our own cities and state capitals. And that have created, one way or the other, what we understand as, the definition that brought three major states together to be called the Bay States. That's Borno, Adamawa, and Yobe, where we've had the intensity of the difficulties. But more to it, it is all about the Boko Haram. It's all about what they are doing. It's more about the split and the fact that they're having field day, just like you've mentioned. It's more about what they're doing, perhaps above, what the security services can do. Now, we know that all this while we've had difficulties really trying to do that, but from the national perspective, one will have to do a lot to commend the efforts of the state governors wherever they are in the Northeast zone, particularly those of them that exist within the confines of the Bay States. That's Borno, Adamawa, and Taraba. But of all of them, at least let me try to let you know that Adamawa State appears to be the heart of it. Because if something happens in Yobe and they run into Borno, they can have a stretch limit of Sambisa forest that comes into Adamawa State through either Hong local government or Gombe local government that you can see has been on the front reportage recently, at least giving us some continuous activities of Boko Haram. And like you rightly said, our tracks and roads are not well monitored. They are so large, and I accept something is done in the interim to bring about this particular thing. It is more difficult for a state like Adamawa State, for instance. But it is taking the good ingenuity of the man on the ground, whether you like it or not. You cannot talk about stabilizing Northeast Zone, particularly in terms of security, without mentioning Umar Ahmad Fintri of Adamawa State, the governor, who has taken good measures, at least to tackle two of the most notorious issues of insecurity, in our own state, and Northeast Zone particularly. At least in the past 1 year, he's been able to hold the governors of Northeast Zone on strictly this security issue with a blueprint that some of us were part of, that he encouraged to develop along the line. And that has helped in giving dimension, to even monitor and to put in check issues of being farmer harder crisis that have been notorious in the southern part of Adamawa, closing up with Taraba State, where a lot of people have been killed. So in that particular consideration, I say that the state where I belong, where I also serve as on advisory level to the governor on strategy, he's been able, to look at issues perhaps a little deeper than we're perceiving them from the national. He has domesticated at least his policies to ensure that he puts across, mechanisms and structures, that will help him do a lot in terms of early warning, and early responses. He has done extra on that note, and I believe that the last reflection that even directors of state security services had in Adamawa State, he gave them a blueprint, and the outcome of it, which one will not disclose, would have been the appreciation of those security administrators to the fact that he was the master of his game and he is ready to do more. And he has a very tentative blueprint, yes, that he has put in place at least to checkmate and to arrange and to take care of three of the most notorious hydra-related kind of security insecurities. Now, if I may just borrow your term and just play over, like the issues of the urban crimes, for instance, committed by young people. In our own state, they've grown to call themselves Sheila. They have, an anticipated collaboration with some bandits, that come around and then do a few things in the rural areas and that. But that has been worked out and stopped. It's a very good blueprint.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you.